Hello and welcome to Waylander's Wandering. It's another painting tutorial from me, and today I'm going to be showing you how I painted Ahsoka Tano for Star Wars Legion. So to start off, we're going to go with Ahsoka's skin, which will be orange with white markings, and we're going to start with Martian Orange from Vallejo Express Colour, just to lay down that base coat, and hopefully this being a contrast style paint to get the shading done all in one go. So first things first, we will come in with a detail brush from the Army Painter and start picking out the areas of skin, starting with Ahsoka's nose bridge there, coming in around the eye socket, getting an even but relatively thin coat of paint on, and try not to get any into those areas that goes down to white for the markings later. But as ever, at this stage it doesn't really make much difference, because we can always tidy it up when we come to that stage of painting. So being careful, making sure we have a reasonable point on our brush, come in and just get the paint moving. So I will carry on with this. Bring you chaps and chapesses in when it's all done. There we have the orange hit, I think reasonably tidily. I'm happier with this side of the face than this side, but my eyesight isn't what it was, my steady hand isn't what it was, and quite honestly it's the best I can do. To accentuate the face and to take attention away from any slight mistakes on the white markings on the face, I'm going to accentuate the eye sockets and the lips. And for this, I'm going to be using Deep Purple from Vallejo Express Colour. And I only need a little drop, like so. And for this, we literally just want to get enough on the end of the brush, so there's some there. Use the back of my hand to tease the brush back into a point and come in very gently with just the tip, touch it to Ahsoka's lips. So get your purple end, just the tip against Ahsoka's lips. And for those who are checking, yes, I am holding my breath while I do these tiny little paint strokes on this tiny little area. With the skin pretty much complete, just needing a small highlight, which I will do with Citadel Troll Slayer Orange, but I'll do it off camera because you're probably going to be bored watching me do that. The next section to do will be the bodice of the tunic and the leggings, which are going to be done with Vallejo Express Colour Gloomy Violet. So let's get a little bit of this onto my palette. And taking my detail brush, come in, trying to avoid any areas we don't want this violet shade. We will lay this down doing the usual contrast tape paint thing, lay it on relatively thick, try and avoid areas of excess pooling. And of course we are still at a fairly early stage, so that if there are mistakes and we get paint where we don't want it, we can still cover it over with an off-white, probably the correct white, and fix. To use a filming term, fix everything in post. Let's get into these leggings. So I will get these leggings and bodice done. Bring you guys back in momentarily. With the violet on the bodice and leggings, it's now time to do the rest of Ahsoka's clothing, which will be the skirt, the part of the skirt around the belly, back there, her boots, and her, I suppose, gauntlets, for which I'm going to be using Vallejo Express colour Space Grey. If you don't have this one, I suppose whatever the closest to a Citadel Space Wolf Grey would be what you're looking for. So again, coming in, and we're now being a little more careful because we don't want to get any of this Space Grey onto the leggings as well as the skin. And gently cut all of this in, allowing the tip of the brush to do the work, and capillary actions where possible to draw the paint up into these areas. Of course, on a nice even coat, not too thick, not too thin, but enough to cover on the areas like the skirt there, around the stomach here, and I will carry on with all of this. Pop some white on where it needs to tidy up, and bring you back momentarily. Now that we've got all that Space Grey down, it's time to go over everything else that's not a lightsaber blade or the I can't remember what they're called, the fleshy parts of Ahsoka's head, with a Vallejo Express colour Black Lotus, in preparation for them either remaining black, becoming a metallic part. So we get a couple of dripply drops on the palette. And come in with Black Lotus. And this, for the most part, we can maybe not be super heavy-handed with it, but we can definitely get it in there and get a nice colour on there. Now, Black Lotus actually comes across as a very dark indigo blue. So if you want a darker black, I would suggest, if you're going to use using contrast paints, to use Citadel's Black Legion. And there are one or two areas I may do this with. Probably not, because I like the effect of the indigo instead of a black. Definitely works on a miniature like this, where I feel true blacks, you know, the pitch black is a little bit too much. But being super careful, we now don't get any of this onto parts of the miniature we don't want it to. I will continue to put on this Black Lotus and get you guys out of the bar when everything is locked in nicely. That Black Lotus has had time to cure properly, so I left it overnight just to be on the safe side. It's time to go for metallic parts, which I will be using Vallejo gunmetal. Now we'll be doing things such as this decoration piece here and here, the greaves on the boots, some detailing bits on the lightsaber hilts, and any other little bits of metallic I can spot, such as the trim on the bodice and such there. So we'll begin by getting a few drops of paint onto the palette. And straight into it. This is where we are now being extra careful. So touching in very carefully to all of these areas. We'll go around the miniature, picking out any metallic seam pieces. And we're very careful to only hit the areas we're interested in. Just to make a mess now would will waste a significant amount of time going back and fixing our mistakes. And don't forget, miniature painting is not a race, and slow and steady is the way to go. So again, elbows on the desk, hands pretty much together so that the heel of your hand is touching there, and then come in with just the tip of the brush with that very stable position, and you should be able to get in even the smallest areas with zero wobble. With the coat on the all metallic areas, it's now time to hit up a little highlight where necessary, so just to make the metallics pop a little. And in these areas of decoration, what we'll do is drop in a little sepia shade to give them a gold looking effect, and in those highlight areas we will touch them slightly with Vallejo silver. So to begin, I will get a few drops of sepia on there like so, and then we will come in neat as you like into these areas just to give them a sort of a more brown metallic finish, like so. And again, we're looking at a relatively subtle change here, and in these more heavily detailed pieces you can pretty much get away with putting a lot more shade in there, not so much but it obscures everything and leaves those horrible flooding puddles that we try to avoid so much. So I will crack on with this and the highlights and bring you back in a minute or several. With that wash added and the other metallic parts highlighted, I suppose it's time to attack the area I've kind of been avoiding, which is the flesh tails or lekku on Ahsoka's head. To get the colour, well, to get the blue at least, I shall be using Storm Blue from Express Colour. And white, well, hopefully I can get away with just leaving white. If not, I'll have to touch up with Citadel Corax White in case I go over. A couple of drops of Storm Blue on the old Palato, and let's get on with it. Goodness me. This is going to be very fine work. And maybe even pull out a smaller brush because, goodness me, stuff is tiny. Oh, here we go. Fortunately, on these miniatures, a lot of the shapes for the patterning on the lekku are molded into the plastic, but it's still very tiny stuff. I just hope I can do it justice. Well, I shall carry on with this frustration and reintroduce you lovely people when I've either completed it or rage quit. With those lekku done, we are on to the last part of actually painting this miniature, which will be the lightsaber blades. Now recently you may have seen Josh from the Pickle Jar do his take on lightsaber blades, and then Elston from the Elster Nation has done his take on the lightsaber blades. Unfortunately, well, unfortunately for me that is, Ahsoka can't be done using either of those methods because she uses white bladed lightsabers. But I hear you cry, those lightsaber blades are already white. So yes, I know, but they just look flat and boring, so let's try and do something a little bit more interesting with them. So to start off, we will give them a swift coat of Templar white, from Express Colour, the Vallejo paint, and hopefully this will give them a little bit of life and texture. So starting from the hilt and working towards the tip, give a line up each, making sure that we hit the entire blade all the way around. Try and get this done fairly quick because we don't want that horrible skin forming and all the other weird stuff that happens with contrast paints and contrast type paints, I should say, if you're not fairly fast with them. And give it a little bit extra on the ends there, because I like to imagine that the heat source is here from the hilt, and then the sort of cooler, which is a weird concept when you think about what lightsabers are. But that gives them a tiny little bit of texture, which is not shown on camera at all. But believe me, in my hand, this looks amazing. Unfortunately, what we're going to have to do now is let this cure for a little bit of time, and then I will add the secret ingredient. Right, that Templar White has had a little bit of time to cure. Now we're ready to add the secret ingredient, which is fairy dust effect paint from the Army Painter. So we will get a drop or several fairy dust on there like so, and using it neat, and coming up the lightsaber blades. The fairy dust will leave a kind of pearlescent finish on the blades, which I really hope the camera's going to pick up. And at the very least, I hope the camera picks up when we come to the final miniature photography. Even if it doesn't pick up in the super bright. Sort of mid-painting pictures. And let's have a look. Has it picked it up? A little bit. Okay, I will now base Ahsoka, and I will use probably some nice alien-esque things. I've got some multicolored tufts and plants and things, but I'll give it a brown dirt on the actual base, blank rim as usual, and then I'll bring you back in to have a look at the miniature once everything is complete. Oh, there we have it. Ahsoka Tano for Star Wars Legion, all done and dusted, and it's a really lovely model. I've done as well as I can. I think a better painter would obviously do a better job, but I think I've done okay. I hope the techniques that I've shown in this video are useful to you all. I hope you've enjoyed watching the video. If you have, don't forget to add a like down below. Equally, if you haven't enjoyed it, leave a dislike. Don't forget to comment and share. Subscribe if you'd like to see more from me. All these paints and the miniature itself are available from the fantastic Mighty Lancer Games down there in Bridlington. Either use the link in the description down below or the QR code on screen to try and get one for yourselves. Well, that's it. I love your face. Goodbye.